Hello, this is exercise 5 and in this exercise we have 3 experiments. So let's go to the first experiment. In this program we have to take an array from the input array as input from the user and check how many even and how many odd elements are there and return the count. Okay, in this first I have initialized n, I and O equal to 0 and E equal to 0. O representing odd and E representing even. Next I have asked the input to enter the number of elements of the array and stored it in n. I have initialized an array of int type and the name of the array is x and the size of the array is n. Next I have given the prompt enter the elements one by one. Then I have used a for loop which ranges from 0 to n, and in this for loop I have taken input the each element of an array with cin x equals to I. While each input is taken, I have checked whether if this input modulo 2 is equal to 0. If its modulo, that is the remainder, is equal to 0, that means it's an even number. So I've incremented e by 1. Else, that means it's an odd number and I've incremented odd by 1. This loop will go on until the nth element. Once the nth element is completed, we get the count of even and odd number. Finally, I have printed the output as number of odd number equals to O and number of even numbers is equals to A. So let's check the program. First, we compile it. Okay, it's running fine. Now, let enter the number of elements 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So here it's giving the number of odd number is 3 and the number of even numbers is 2, and hence the output is correct. Now let's go to the next experiment and check what it is. In this experiment we are adding two matrices of the same row and column. So let's see what I have done. First, here I have taken m and variables m, n, I, j and x and y. M and n are the number of rows and column. I, j are the variables used in the for loop, and x and j are the number of rows and column of the second matrix. M and n are of the first and x and y of the second. First, I asked the user to enter for the first matrix, and I asked to enter the number of rows, that is m. Enter the number of columns, that is n. I create an array of create a 2D array of size m cross n. Then I ask the user to enter the details for the second matrix, that is the rows which is stored in x and columns which is stored in y, and I create another array. And I create a third array, that is sum of x and y, because I have to store the result in some other matrix. Then I have checked if x equal to m and y equals to n, which means that if the number of rows and columns are equal of both the array, we can proceed. In the final step, I have asked inside this if condition, I have asked the user to enter the elements of the first matrix using a loop. In this loop I have used another loop. The first loop is for the number of rows and the second is for the number of columns. I have taken input cin ar of 1, that is array 2D array 1 of I, j. This program will take input for the first matrix. Second, I have asked the user to enter the elements of the second matrix. Again, I have used two loops, a nested loop, one for the row, second for the column, and I have taken input in AR2 as I, j. Finally, I have used another nested loop to calculate the sum of the matrices. That is, sum of ij will be equal to AR1 of ij plus AR2 of ij. Then, to print this sum, I have used another nested for loop for one for row and one for column, and printed sum of ij with a /t, which will give a horizontal tab, and after each row I have given a indent which will print the output in the next line. uh, with this if condition I have also given an else, like if the rows and column does not match, I have to print rows and columns are not equal. So let's check the program. Let's first compile it with a G++ compiler. The program, okay, it's asking number of rows. Let's take a 2, number of columns 2. Second matrix also 2 and 2. It's asking for the number of elements of the first matrix. Okay, 1, 2, 3 and 4. Second matrix 5, 6, 7 and 8. As I print enter, the sum of the matrix is displayed in the screen. Now let's go to the third program. Sorry, let's go to the program. Oh, sorry, I compiled it. In this program, I have to ask the user to enter a certain number of elements of an array, and I have to check how many times an element is repeated and print how many times it has been repeated. So in this, first I have taken two variables n and c, and then I have asked the user to enter the number of elements that the user has, so which is stored in n. Then I have created two arrays, first of n size which the user wants to enter, and second of b which I have taken approximately that not approximately I have taken of 50, which will be more than enough for this program. Now next I have asked for the user to enter the elements one by one using a for loop. In this for loop, before that I have initialized the second temporary array. Each element I have initialized as 0. Okay. In the second loop, for loop, I have asked the user to enter the elements one by one of the array. While it's entering, I am initializing the index of the second temporary array, and I am incrementing it by 1. Okay. Like suppose if the user gives the input 5, so the index 5 in the second B array will be incremented, will be given as the value 1. First it's 0, 1. If again 5 is entered, it will be incremented again, and it will be 2. In this we have done this. In the third, I have checked if for all those elements where b of I is not equal to 0. If it's not equal to 0, that means the user has entered that element. So I printed cout I is repeated, that is, that element is repeated b of I times. How many times that it has been repeated in this program. So let's check the program. Let's go out of the program. First we compile it. Okay. Now let's run it. I enter the elements as number of elements 8. I am entering element one by one. 1, 2, 2, 5, 4, 8. Sorry, 8, 4, 8. Okay. Here we can see 1 is repeated 1 time, 2 is repeated 2 times, 4 is repeated 2 times, 5 is repeated 1 time, 8 is repeated 2 times. So our program works correctly. Thank you.